What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Teed Up. We are locked in right now on March Madness. We trying to rejuvenate ourselves for the NBA season with the playoffs looming right around the corner. I've been extremely exhausted. I'm locked in on everything basketball right now. The first thing I kind of want to start before we talk about March Madness, which we will get to. Last night, we were doing some content here at the office. I'm not going to speak about who we were, filming with or anything like that. Y'all will see. And we were wrapping up. We had a good time. It was good vibes. And all I see is Kenny like reading from his Apple Watch, and he's like, "Oh man," like a dramatic reaction to something, I'll say. And we found out that Damian Lillard has a blood clot in his calf, and he's going to be out indefinitely. And I will admit, for me personally, like I said a few moments ago, I've been so locked into March Madness. It's just the best basketball of the year, in my opinion, at any level. And right now in the NBA, the vibes are a little low because it feels like fans, media, teams, a handful of coaches, we're all just kind of ready to get these last 9 to 10 games over and just get to the playoffs where the basketball will elevate and, the stakes rise or whatever. And so because of that, my attention span has not been extremely locked into basketball how it maybe was in February or whatnot. And this injury kind of shook me a bit. Like, I knew Dame had been out for the last 3 or so games. The Bucks won 2 of those 3 games. And obviously any basketball person, any basketball mind still respects and look at the Bucks as a dangerous team out east, because at the end of the day, when you have the two talents of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard on your side, you're going to have a chance in any series against any team. Now, though, you not only look at the Bucks potentially being without Dame for the playoffs, but it's almost like a conversation me and the guys had not that long ago where you have to start to think about the future. And I know me and the guys really got on Derek D. Mills for talking about Giannis potentially asking out and wanting to be gone. But that was one of the first things that popped in my mind. Not that I'm saying Giannis is going to ask out or leave, but I just don't know where they can go if this turns into something more than just some small blood clot. We've seen Victor Wembanyama get shut down already. Obviously, 2 different areas, 2 different blood clots, 2 different players, 2 different sizes, everything like that. And I'm no blood clot specialist. I just want to say that now. But when you hear the word indefinitely and with the playoffs being right around the corner, it just makes you think this could be another season. And I will allow anybody to correct me if I'm wrong. This could be the 3rd, maybe even 4th, because I can't even remember to 4 years ago, unless that was the actual year that they won the championship. But this may be the 3rd year now in a row where the Bucks have a significant injury that is going to affect the way that they perform in the playoffs. And they're going to have to sell that to themselves on what they do next. They've done the different coaches. They traded Drew Holiday and went out and got this quote-unquote upgrade in Damian Lillard. They just moved on from Chris Middleton, who had been there since Giannis was there. Chris Middleton was one of the biggest Buck lifers. I don't know where you go from here, right? This team is only getting older. They already didn't have a bunch of wiggle room and salary cap flexibility. You've ran through a couple coaches. You hired Doc after firing Adrian Griffin, who was actually 39-17. He had an outstanding record. So I don't know what's going to gain you from firing Doc. Can you even fire Doc? How can you even evaluate Doc if he's not going to have Damian Lillard? And if this turns into something that's a little bit more concerning than maybe most of us know or figure, and it spills over into next season, this team already doesn't look deep enough to withstand a full, a start of a year without Dame or Giannis out there, and this could snowball into something. I just don't know what the future of the Bucks hold, whether Giannis is there, whether Giannis is not there. I don't know how this plays out. And I was excited for the Bucks, and I was anticipating seeing them in the playoffs. And things are shaping up and gearing to see that they would be facing the Pacers in the first round. And they've had history over the last few years, so I was kind of excited. I felt like I would have taken the Bucks in that series. Now without Dame, I don't know where I would go. You still don't doubt Giannis, but that has just been on my mind as far as the NBA. We're going to have things that's going to come up as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. Obviously, we got some Q's with P's at the end of the some Q's with P at the end of the show that I'm sure we'll get back into the NBA bag or whatnot. But that's been one of the most as of recent things has been on my mind. Right, we've had LeBron had been out. He's back now. Brunson had been out. Ja has been out. Now we have Dame out. Jokic and his elbow, he's been out. There's been just a lot. And I even still feel like I'm forgetting somebody. A lot of our stars are going down. Obviously, Vic is out for the rest of the season. Steph had missed a few games or has missed a few games for the Warriors or whatnot. So around this time, we're getting excited, right? Getting hopeful. It's a lot of good matchups that look like they're going to be intriguing to start the playoffs. Just out of the gates, there's going to be some nice things going on. But I can't lie. The one thing that I have paid attention to while being locked in on March Madness are these injuries. And it is kind of getting disheartening and a little concerning because the last thing I felt like we needed with all of this parity is somebody going down. And that's one of the bad things about the parity is like, there's so much talent spread across the league that if a team has one of these guys get hurt, it changes the entire trajectory of the team and what the playoff landscape looks like. And so I hope Dame gets healthy. I hope by the grace of God, there is a way that he can play in the playoffs. I'm saying that for, his sake. And I'm also saying that as a selfish basketball fan, I can admit, because I feel like these playoffs, like March Madness, is going to be super exciting. I've said that for the last few weeks now. To me, I am highly anticipating the NBA playoffs. I think this could be a legitimate gauntlet. And I know how good the Cavs are. I know how good the Celtics are. I know how good the Thunder are. I understand it. But even when you look at a Western Conference and you see the Nuggets, you still have to respect. It feels like Jamal Murray has been heating up lately. You know what Jokic is about. I think he's the undisputed best player in the world right now. If you went off the general population of what people are picking, I think you can't sleep on the Clippers. Now that Kawhi has kind of turned it up, we've talked about that a bunch. I think you can't ignore the Minnesota Timberwolves at the bottom of the conference. They've been outstanding since the new year of 2025 and the calendar switch. Out east, the Pacers have been phenomenal since, for the last few months. My Knicks, I know we can't beat the top teams, but hell, we beat everybody else when we're at full strength, and we've gotten Mitchell Robinson back. And we're as dangerous as anybody out there. I know we struggle in our areas, but when we are on, and we can hang with teams and we beat teams that are in our area. And it's just about, having to elevate our game for the top echelon teams out east. And Detroit is no joke. The Bucks, when they were fully healthy, I just felt like they was lining up to have such a strong collision in the playoffs. I mean, we potentially could have maybe had some upsets. You look at the Warriors, since they got Jimmy Butler, they've been kind of unfuckwittable. The Grizzlies and the Rockets are young, but they're intriguing and they have identities. And so when you have all of that and you start to get these injuries, the closer and closer we get to the playoffs, it is a little bit, like I said, disheartening. And for that reason, that's why I kind of been locked in on March Madness for the most part. And just trying to get every bit of enjoyment out of that, because there is something about the NBA and these injuries. I don't know what it is. I don't have the answers, but it's a little disappointing. Hopefully it won't matter. Hopefully we still get good basketball. I'm optimistic. And hopefully, like I said, Damian Lillard can be cool. But other than that, we'll see. And gear yourselves up, because once these playoffs start, it's going to be all we locked into. It's going to be very serious. It's going to be very intense. And we're going to make sure that the energy of the NBA playoffs is brought into this podcast. We're going to use a big energy transfer and bring it into here the same way we about to do with March Madness. Now I'm going to be bringing my boy, my college basketball expert, Christian, onto the show with me. And we're going to talk about some of our thoughts, opinions about the last few games and whatnot, and what to look forward to in the future of the tournament. All right, man, I got Christian with me. We got our second chance bracket up here, the Sweet 16. I'm gonna come out and be honest with y'all and Christian. My bracket is extremely awful, but I don't feel bad, because I told y'all for weeks, do not base what I'm saying into your bracket. Like, take the information that we speak on, but don't let my picks guide you, because I'm going to be wrong a lot. I'm going to take a lot of chances. I'm going to go with my heart. You know what I mean? So my bracket is terrible. Actually, I think at this point in my bracket, Christian, Auburn is playing Yale right now. Ole Miss and Michigan State are both out now. I think I had New Mexico versus maybe like UNC or something. Who did Ole Miss play? Yeah, they play.
Iowa State.
Iowa State is here. Thank you so much. So yeah, I think it's Auburn, Yale, Iowa State, and New Mexico. That's what my Sweet 16 looked like. So as y'all can see, not only am I wrong, I'm completely wrong. Like, out of these four, only one is really here for me. How about you, Christian? Did you have Michigan, Ohio State? I mean, Ole Miss and Michigan State this far? Is this how your Sweet 16 looked?
Well, I do want to say shout out on the New Mexico call. That was a good call. They were right in that game.
Thank you. Yeah.
They had a chance to win. That was a good double-digit seed to pick in a year where there haven't been many upsets. I had A&M instead of Michigan, and I had Marquette over Michigan State. And while I did like Ole Miss, and I was telling you about Ole Miss before the tournament,
Yeah.
to me the best leverage play of trying to get a team in the Final Four that not a lot of people had was Iowa State. So my Final Four was 3 1 seeds in Iowa State. So there's no way I can win a pool with that at this point. That was my one like unique Final Four pick. Anyways, 4 really good teams.
Me and you had the
and
same vision too. I do want to point out. So me and you, I believe, maybe we even talked about it. I can't remember. So we felt Marquette, New Mexico was going to advance. Whoever won that game was going to give Michigan State the run for its money. Obviously, Michigan State prevailed, but it's dope to see that we kind of had the same lot, 2 different picks, same logic.
Let me ask you this, Pierre. Of these 4 teams, through 2 games, have you changed your perception on either of them from when you had as you were making your bracket?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Michigan, I was very, very dialed in on the amount of turnovers that they have. And just the uniqueness of the 2 bigs, I think I kind of underestimated it, even though I feel foolish because I shouldn't have underestimated it because of the Big Ten tournament, obviously. But going into the tournament, I just felt like a lot of teams are going to find a way to kind of use their weaknesses against them, but they've been able to prevail. And same thing with Ole Miss. Ole Miss, these are, like an inconsistent team, I felt like all year, but they've leaned on, Padula and whatnot. And Chris Beard, I shouldn't have doubted him. He gets the job done. And we had that conversation too, where like, just as like the NBA playoffs, we kind of base it off of players. We're like, hey, I know the Suns may not be a high seed this year, but that's still Kevin Durant or that's still Kawhi on the Clippers. I think you kind of have to look at that with coaching in college, where it's like, hey, whatever you want to say, you can say, but that's still John, Calipari. That's still Tom Izzo. So my perspective on both of those teams have changed. And then Michigan State has not, because New Mexico was close with them. I think Bryant started off close with them. Who else did they play?
Those are the 2.
Those are the 2. Okay. And the 3-point shooting reflected we saw against St. John. So I'm still kind of on edge. And I'm not surprised that they made it this far either. But I had to, again, take my chance with the upset when I could.
So Michigan State was up 5 at halftime against Bryant, and I think they were either tied or down like 1 or 2 against New Mexico. And the second half, it's the same story. They're getting all these stops. They're running in transition. All of a sudden, they look like a good team. I don't know if they're going to be able to get away with that against an Ole Miss team that's playing really well, but Ole Miss is going to have to really compete on the glass. What I love about Ole Miss is they have these 2 big men, Malik Dia and Jamin Brakefield, who really got game and like can shoot and put the ball on the floor, finish inside. Like they're kind of matchup nightmares. But then what Michigan State, where Ole Miss can get them by having those bigs that are versatile and quicker and more skilled than Michigan State's bigs. Michigan State's got more size, more depth in the front court, and they're better rebounders. So that'll be interesting. But Michigan State can't keep getting away with being a bad first half team and winning all these games.
Maybe
right?
they can. I'm agreeing. I felt that way against New Mexico. I was like, hey, this is perfect. They're playing kind of into New Mexico's hands, and they flipped that switch at half, man. Maybe that's just them. I do agree though. At some point, if they run into an Auburn or I would think that Auburn would not allow them to be the second half team that runs away with the game. But we'll see. I like it so far. I like the theatrics.
Well, so tell me the one thing that scares me though is if Michigan State beats Ole Miss and Michigan upsets Auburn, all of a sudden Michigan State is a game against their rival who they already beat this season from making the Final Four, and then all of a sudden it looks like our Michigan State take was completely wrong. But it's a lot about matchups and stuff. That's just kind of how the tournament is. But who do you see coming out of the South?
Oh man, at this point, I am kind of leaning towards Auburn. I just think that they check all boxes. They've been that way throughout the entire season so far. They've had their own couple of issues in so far in the tournament where I've seen them not play some of their best basketball, but I think everybody's going to run into that at some point in this tournament. I think you, as a coach, maybe preferred early than later. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's good for some of these teams to have like a little scare in that first game to realize that, hey, this is real. We got to come out focused and sharp. My Alabama Crimson Tide was doing the same thing. They kind of, who was that against? That was against the who did they play in the opening round?
Robert Morris.
Yes, Robert Morris came out and gave them a big run for their money. And then you see in the next round against St. Mary's, they came in, locked in, and handled business relatively easier than even they did against Robert Morris. So I think Auburn is ready now. I got Michigan State over Ole Miss. I'm still concerned with the three-point shooting with Michigan State. But again, even picking against them, I told people, I don't doubt Tom Izzo. I was just going off of the bracket. I really, really was high on that New Mexico team. I just felt like they had a style. They were well coached. They had a go-to guard. Nelly Jr. Joseph is extremely overrated. I mean, underrated. And I also like, I forget his name, number 8. He's very underrated with New Mexico. He could really shoot it.
CJ Nolan?
Say it again?
Philip Boravichin?
Yes.
Or the
yes.
I'm not saying it right.
Yes, I can't pronounce it either. But he can really play. And so, yeah. And then you had Ty Washington's uncle.
Uncle?
Yes, that's his uncle. It's crazy,
No
right?
way.
He's
I did not know
he's
that.
older than his uncle. Oh, it's funny. So, but yeah. Michigan State is still a dangerous team. But in this matchup, I got Auburn. Just too polished. Shout out to the South region, man. It was fun.
All right, let's move on to the West. Some fun action with Florida scraping by UConn, with Maryland winning on a buzzer beater. Texas Tech beats Drake, and then Arkansas with probably the biggest ups of the tournament beating St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
So Arkansas might be getting a Duthiero back, and Texas Tech might be getting Chance McMillan back. And then this is obviously a really fun team with two of my favorite teams to watch this season. So what are you thinking about these matches?
Before I say anything, I want to ask you, which one was the game of the tournament for you? We talked about this on a linear show of Numbers on the Board, and they were saying, like, man, the Maryland game was the game of the tournament. I was like, what? I thought it was like Florida UConn, and they all kind of disagreed with me. And I wasn't saying that they were wrong because it was a buzzer beater shot. I don't think it's a wrong answer here. Which one did you enjoy more for you? Even though I know you enjoy both.
I agreed with you. Florida UConn was awesome. The way UConn was scheming guys open, and man, if they could finish at the rim a little bit better, and if they could have hit a few more threes, I thought they could have really broken that game open. Like, they were playing fantastic, and what a story that would have been if this Florida team on a heater comes into the tournament and a UConn team that people had given up on beats them. That would have been crazy. So that was, and then everything with Hurley, how great Walter Clayton was down the stretch. To me, that was the clear best game of the tournament.
So I walked away from that game, and I'm going to pick Florida. But this is also what I want to say, because you asked me about this with the South. I already liked Florida. Florida had already been killing it. They didn't need no validation from me or anybody else. Like, what they have done, in the SEC tournament and everything for, going into this tournament, it speaks for itself. To play against a UConn with a coach like Hurley, the back-to-back reigning champs, who have some guys, who had a couple of guys still on that team from some of that success, the championship success, the Carabins and whatnot. They had a freshman, they had some youth, they had some upperclassmen. That was a really good UConn team that kind of just didn't click like past teams. They lost a lot last year. They lost a lot. They lost Klingon, they lost Spencer, Newton. Obviously, lost Castle, but they lost a lot. And at the end of the day, it took them a while to figure some things out. But when they did, they played them well. I say all that to say that Florida, for me, and I'm sure you have the same type of thought process, that was a championship win, in my opinion. That makes me feel like they are going to win the championship. Now, I have my team that I want and that I'm going to root for, and that I think, and we'll fill this out and we'll see where it goes. But it changed. I don't want to say it changed my perspective because I already respected them and was like, man, Florida is legit. But like that took it to another level for me because everything that was going wrong, but it wasn't going wrong against a 16 seed. It wasn't going wrong against a 15 seed or anything like that. It was going wrong against two-time back-to-back reigning champs. And somehow they found a way to prevail. They got enough from everybody in times where like Walter Clayton wasn't having it going. They figured some things out and they fought through adversity and they came back and won that game that UConn kind of controlled for all of the game. All of the game, it felt like UConn was in control, and Florida would fight, and then Caribbean would hit a 3, and now it's a 4-point lead again. And like, I was just super impressed. That was one of the most impressive wins I've seen in a very long time for a team in Florida who, you know, they've been good this year, but it ain't like Florida has just been running through the NCAA world the last few years. You know what I'm saying? So that really impressed me, and it makes me look at them even more as a favorite. Now, down below, this is tough. I like Texas Tech. JT Toppin has been phenomenal. I know what he can do. I know how they can shoot the basketball. Christian, I know how you feel about them. I'm riding with the high hand. I'm going with Arkansas. I think these last 2 wins have kind of pumped them up, and they're seeing how good that they can be and that they are in real time. And I think that's really dangerous when you have a team that has young players. When they start to see how good they are, because it's one thing for John Calipari to go in that locker room and tell them how good they are, how good they can be. That's one thing. But then for them to see the results on the court in these stakes and for them to then beat St. John's, I know that they are on a different level. Like DJ Wagner is playing some of the best basketball I've seen in his college career. Trayvon Brazile looks like he's kind of bought into his role. Our guy from Tennessee that we kind of both felt the same way about. Like, I don't know. I didn't really like him at Tennessee. I think you shared the same sentiment. He's been huge for them. Boogie Flant being back. Who else am I missing out there? Janelle Davis, like he has experience. They are just rolling and doing anything. Carter Knox and those guys. Like I'm a big fan of this team. They're rolling. They're hot. I think they continue it and they beat Texas Tech. I know you may have a different opinion, but the hot hand is just hot right now.
No, I mean, I love Texas Tech, but Arkansas does have it rolling right now. And the key, key number 1 is that they're super talented, but key number 2 is like they really protect the rim, I think. And like Jonas Adu, like you said, like I thought he was kind of okay at Tennessee. It took him a while to get it going this year. I don't know if he wasn't healthy or something, but he's also scoring a bit. His like little floater push shot has been money.
Yeah.
But with Big Z, with Adu and Brazile.
Big Z. How did I forget Big Z? Yeah.
And Big Z was in foul trouble that whole St. John's game. But man, JT Toppin is so good around the basket with that little floater from him, but he's not a huge dude. Like I'm honestly sometimes that's like kind of my one thing with him. I'm like, is he not big enough to play his style in the NBA? Anyways, I think Arkansas can match up with him better than almost any other team in the country. And when he's not scoring a lot, you're putting a lot of pressure on Texas Tech's guards to be really hooping. You know, they have a perimeter oriented attack. And man, Arkansas, the talent and the athleticism is there. And then offensively, while sometimes it's not the prettiest, like they got bucket getters and they got Nelly Davis and they got DJ Wagner. And I like this kid, Billy Richmond, they bring off the bench too. Like he's a good player. Knox can get downhill. Like they got it all going on. And if the Arrow comes back and Boogie Flan, like, do you hear all these names? I was like, Arkansas is legit. This is a crazy 10 seed. So
yeah, it's really not a 10 seed, right? Like,
Tech,
talent-wise, it's not a 10 seed, which is the craziest part. But yeah, I think you're right. But I'm still scared of Texas Tech because they can shoot the ball so well that the paint protection, if they come out and shoot like that game against Kansas, really opened my eyes with how good Texas can shoot the ball. Like they can win a game off that type of shot making, and that could happen. So I'm not ruling them completely out, but I am going to go with Arkansas and just the hotness of them, how they're rolling. Now this Florida Arkansas game, again, I would love to pick Arkansas right now, but based off what I have seen in the SEC tournament and just this past game against UConn, I would be a fool not to pick Florida. And so I'm just going to go with Florida. I have to. I would root for Arkansas in that game, 10 seed, John Calipari. That's my guy. But we going off of facts and not feelings. So Duke, Arizona. Hey, this is going to be a really good game. You made a great point that I hope a lot of people may be seeing on Twitter. If they didn't, we're going to make sure that they're aware here. I'm gonna actually let you say your observation about this game that you brought up to me yesterday before the show.
Yeah, so when these teams played at Arizona, so they did a home and home. So they played at Duke last year. Arizona won. This year they played at Arizona and Duke won. Duke won 69-55. Caleb Love put up a stinker. Duke was awesome in that game. But something that when I went back and watched it was I'm like, they got Carter Bryant guarding Cooper Flagg. And from a physical tools perspective, who else is 6'8", stronger than Cooper Flagg with a 7-foot wingspan, and whose focus is mostly on the defensive end of the floor? Carter Bryant is a role player at the college level. He can hit the three. You kind of put me onto him. I'm a really big fan of what he can be at the next level, but like all week we've seen him before. And it's Cooper Flagg. I'm not saying he's going to lock him up, but
yeah.
But like not many teams, it's like good luck. Like you can't do anything to stop him. And Carter Bryant, if he can just make it difficult for Cooper Flagg to score, where he's so good playing off 2 feet in the lane and just contesting and making it more difficult for him, or making their offense go through a Knipple or Proctor who have been hooping, but they're not Cooper Flagg. It just, can you make it more difficult for Cooper Flagg than everybody else? And I think Carter Bryant in Arizona can do that.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I think they can too. I'm still ultimately going to pick Duke, and the two names that you just named is why. Like, I wish it was simple enough to say contain Cooper Flagg and make it tough for him. But I even think that, hey, let's just say hypothetically Carter Bryant does do that, right? Let's just say he makes it tougher than we've seen in this tournament so far for Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is still going to have 16, 18 points. He's just that good when you pencil that in. It's all about how tough the buckets are. He is a guy that can score and get what he wants even when it is tough. So like you said, we are by no means imagining anybody locking him up and completely neutralizing him. He's too good of a player, even at the age he's at, to be stopped. But when you have Con Knipple and you have Tyrese Proctor, who's played the way he's played, and you just have this entire team, Maluach, Caleb Foster, Isaiah Evans, and who am I forgetting? James, and my guy from Purdue. I'm blanking.
Gillis.
Yes. When they just have a really good, talented team, man. I'm sorry. It's not as simple as stopping Cooper Flagg. I wish it was that simple, but we just saw Tyrese Proctor just go lights out from 3. And then Knipple, lights out from it's just too much. They're overbearing. I think Duke is even better than I anticipated. They just have way too many options. They have interior, they have size, they have bench scoring, they have guard play, they have 3-point shooting, they have a guy. And then the guy, Cooper Flagg, how he plays, it makes you have to give up the Tyrese Proctor and Knipple looks. When he's getting it off their little horns action and he's able to decide what he wants to do off the elbow and he's kind of going, defenses have to respect Cooper Flagg and they're going to collapse. And when you collapse and you're giving Isaiah Evans, all of these corner 3-point shots, or Knipple or Tyrese Proctor, all of these different perimeter shots, it can get over quickly. And I feel like the first 2 games that they played in this tournament has been that, whereas like these other teams haven't stood a chance because you really have to pick your poison. But there is really nothing to really pick. It's either Cooper Flagg dominates or one of these other guys go crazy from 3 like that we've seen, or both. And I think ultimately that's going to be too much for Arizona. I just do hope that we get a close game because I think Duke is so good that I want to be able to enjoy some of this run that they're going on, because the previous 2 games were so lopsided that I didn't really tune in. I put my focus in other places because I'd rather watch another close game than see Duke beat up on, a random team. So I'm gonna take Duke there, and then BYU, Alabama. Y'all know I love Alabama, but BYU is another team where like the perspective changes. We've all had different opinions on BYU. Everybody loved them at the start. Then they started playing high-level competition. It was like, oh, they're kind of fake. Then they got their shit back together again. And now here they are in a tournament taking it up to a level we've never seen. Like even Jaeger Demon is playing like his best basketball at the right time, and they can score and put up points and play with pace, and that's not going to be unfamiliar territory with them that a lot of teams run into when they play Alabama, and that's going to be exciting. But I'm ultimately taking Alabama because this is what they do, and I think to beat Alabama, you're going to have to try to not play their game and play at their pace. I think it's going to take a team that's going to be, a little bit more different, have a little bit more size than BYU as far as interior, and I think the talent has a discrepancy there, and I'm gonna ride with Alabama. Alabama is deep, man. I don't think people realize how deep Alabama is.
That could be the best game of the round. There's so many good games this round, but this is the one I'm low-key most excited for. It's going to be so many points. They're both just playing. They're just both so hard to guard.
If BYU is making shots, man, from the perimeter, this could easily be like a 200-something point game. This is going to be nice. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to see. I don't know. It's just something about Alabama this year that I like better than most years. And I love Nate Oates, but this team is really crazy. Duke, Alabama. Oh, man. Who you thinking for this?
When I saw Duke's draw, I was like, okay, Arizona could probably give them a good game. They're athletic. They got depth. They can score. But the team that I was like, if Duke doesn't make the Final Four, it's because Alabama just runs and guns and scores a bunch on them. Duke has what? They ran through the ACC except for that loss to Clemson, right? Yeah. And then they played that one-off game against Illinois, who in theory it's like, oh, maybe Illinois is going to score a ton of points. And they won by 40. And then you play a Baylor team who has had their struggles, but they still have a bunch of talent. They won by however many, 20. And I don't know, Alabama is the one team that, because they have such a strong identity, because they have NBA talent, because they have a coach and a point guard that were just in the Final Four last year, I think that they're not going to be able to guard Duke, but they can outscore them. So that I think Alabama's got a really good shot at Duke, but I don't know if I'm going to click them.
You clicking Duke?
Yeah,
I'm gonna let you make the pick on this one. Go ahead.
No, this is your bracket.
No, this is ours. Go ahead. My bracket is shit.
I'm giving you your voice. I'm giving you your voice. I know you fully prepared. You got to be careful. We're about to get an all SEC Final Four unless you pick Houston. So
I'm picking Houston, but I am fully prepared for Duke to beat my boys. By the way, I'm a realist. I'm a fan, but I am a realist. There we go. We can ride with Duke. Houston over Purdue. I'm sorry, Purdue. Y'all have shattered my expectations. I thought y'all would lose in the first round of High Point. You beat High Point. Then I was like, for sure, they're going to beat who did they just play? I'm sorry, it's so much basketball. I'm not going to play.
Purdue played?
Yeah, they played
McNeese. It was during numbers, and they were up 20 immediately. So I assume you didn't really need to tap in the rest.
But I did think that they were going to lose that one, and I was like, if they lose that one, they would lose to Clemson. But then Clemson lost to McNeese, and then Purdue played for McNeese, and then they beat McNeese. You're losing to Houston, Purdue. Nothing personal. You're losing to Houston, though. Kentucky, Tennessee is this is amazing. I must say, I want to stop right here for 1 second. I ain't gonna be too long. I love college basketball and March Madness, in general, but it's nothing more crazy and mind shattering when you get a rivalry and a meaningful game in this shit as well. It's already high stakes. This could be Tennessee versus Purdue, and it would still be high level, high stakes basketball. But to then get a rivalry in a Midwest what Midwest place is this? I always say the neutral location, but if Midwest can kind of blend into Tennessee, depending on how close it is. Do we know
they're playing at Lucas Oil? Houston is by far the farthest from where these games are being played.
But what about Kentucky and Tennessee? Where are they playing?
No, yeah, all these games are at Lucas Oil. Or maybe not. No. I'm sorry. There might not be at Lucas Oil, but it's in Indianapolis.
Okay. So it might be in Lucas Oil. They still use it.
That's where they do the Final Four, but I'm not sure if they will play a regional final there. Anyways, Purdue is very close. Kentucky and Tennessee are a few hours away, and Houston's by far the farthest away. So they kind of got screwed.
Tennessee, Kentucky. I really like the Kentucky team. Lamont Butler.
Well, you know that Kentucky beat them twice during the regular season, right? Do you think that bodes well for them, or does that kind of scare you?
It doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me. I think Tennessee is just playing different basketball right now. I think Kentucky is also different. Um, was Jackson Robinson in both of those games or one of those games?
At least one he was. I think both, but at least one.
I'm gonna ultimately go. Man, Bray has been shooting the ball. Oh man, this is a tough one. I want to go Tennessee because I like their size. I like their experience. I'll go Kentucky. Wait, Kentucky beat Tennessee twice, right? To be, so they would have to beat them 3 times in a row. I'm going with Rick Barnes. I'm going with Tennessee. I'm gonna trust the Tennessee's defense, and that they'll prevail. I'm going Houston. I think Houston. Once they beat Gonzaga, I was like, they're good.
Yeah.
And so this is our final four.
The only upset you've got is Arkansas, but I can't really blame you. I don't like any of these could happen, but shoot, I don't know which one. This is the one, I guarantee you Houston, Purdue's not beating Houston. That's the one that ain't happening.
I agree.
Anything else could happen.
I agree. So we got 1, 2. We got all number 1 seeds.
They're the 4 best teams. I can't. I mean, the comments they might be on you, but I know a lot of people who, in a typical year, nobody puts all 1 seeds in the final four.
Let's have this conversation. Let's have this conversation anyway.
But this year, people have been doing it. People who I never thought would be doing it are doing it.
I didn't do it. Like let's make one thing clear. This is also not my original bracket, obviously, because I wouldn't be able to fill it out today. My original bracket had not have 4 number 1s. My original bracket has Alabama in it, by the way. And I forgot who else was in. I think maybe I forgot. But the point I'm making is there's been conversations on Twitter and online from various people talking about these top teams winning and not enough upsets. As a college basketball enjoyer and lover as myself, what is your reaction? What's your feelings? What's your thoughts to all of that type of conversation that I'm pretty sure you've probably seen? And how do you feel about it?
Well, I will say I can't remember a year, and I think there's data behind this of like in terms of Ken Palm and efficiency. Like these are the 4 strongest. This is the strongest group of 1 seeds we've had, even stronger than the 2008 when we ended up with D Rose and Chalmers and all 4 of those 1 seeds in the Final Four. The thing I will say is Auburn has looked fairly vulnerable. They haven't looked like the wagon that they looked like earlier in the season. Florida kind of, even though I still think Florida is the best team or the second best team in the country, they easily could have lost to UConn, and they have a tough path to get there. And Houston, I agree with you. I thought Gonzaga was the team that had the best chance to beat them, but the game against Tennessee, Kentucky will be no joke. So at the end of the day, while I think these are each the best team in their region, we're not going to get this. Someone's going to misstep. I just don't know who it's going to be, but someone is going to.
Hopefully it's Arkansas because they're hot and they're rolling. Hopefully it's my Alabama roll tide. You know what I mean? Because they are damn near a part of that 1 seed pack. All of those teams could make it. The 5 somebody had to not be a 1 seed, but and that Florida beat them. So, but that's what I would tell people. And I've said this on the show. March Madness is very conflicting for me. I enjoy upsets, right? Like everybody does. It's very, very fun. It's what make March Madness. My one thing about upsets that I have constantly said, and this has not always happened, but this is kind of what does happen. You'll get, like hypothetically speaking, let's say Bryant did beat Michigan State. There is a high chance at some point Bryant was going to get their ass smacked. They were just not going to be. You can have it, and I get it. On any given day, you can have somebody wake up and play irregular. A certain amount of threes can fall. You can get hot. Another team may have a cold shooting day, right? But what I enjoy about this tournament so far is that these are some of the strongest, best teams. So we are shaping up to have a really good Sweet 16. I mean, a really good Elite 8. A really good Sweet 16 and Elite 8 that will get us to a good Final Four and a competitive championship. There is nothing like getting this far in the tournament and we getting blowouts, man. And I'm not saying that it still won't happen. Maybe Florida beats the dog shit out of Arkansas. Maybe Duke destroys Arizona or Houston just beats the brakes off of Purdue. Like, that's still liable to happen. But I think it's less likely than when we see those quote unquote Cinderellas. It always happens. The Cinderella always runs into a Houston or Duke, and it's like Duke was going to smash a Cinderella. I don't know who would have been a Cinderella off the top of my mind on their side of the St. Mary's. Yeah, the St. Mary's is going to run. They beat Alabama. Duke was going to fuck St. Mary's up. If we just being honest, if we just being completely honest, and I would just much rather see 4 number 1 seeds be alive and somehow potentially playing against each other. And if they don't all make it, that means like an Alabama beat a Duke, which means Alabama is really good. Or if an Arkansas beats Florida, that means that they can beat anybody. So I don't mind it. And it doesn't happen every year. If this was the 5th year of this happening, then I would probably be like, oh, shit, we in trouble. Right. But like this doesn't always happen. So, we need an anomaly. Give me Florida over Auburn and give me Houston over Duke.
Wow. Why?
Defensively, they're gonna do what they need to do. I don't think you can try to offensively outscore them or anything, but I love the balance of Houston. I think they know what they want to do. They know how to do it. The pressure that they're going to apply, the ability to run around and be on one string as a defensive unit, I just think is very underrated in college basketball. And I think when you have a talent like Cooper Flagg that I talked about, when you necessarily can't take him out of a game, but to be able to show bodies, recover, peel, switch, trap, apply pressure to guards, make things just uncomfortable. I don't think Duke has seen anything like Houston this year. Not even close. And I think they have a chance to throw them off with the amount of pressure they're going to have. And this is a year for me with the Houston team that I feel very comfortable with them offensively. Most Houston teams, I question the offense. Not this Houston team. Not this Houston team at all. They can guard. They can defend. They may not have the crazy size, but I think they changed the size for being able to run around and just cause havoc. And that's the way that I kind of like to play. And I think they do it's like controlled chaos. When you have controlled chaos, it really stirs the game up. We used to play against a team like that in high school. It was actually Javon. Me and my cousin Javon played in the same conference. He went to Proviso East. I went to Hinsdale South. Proviso East would trap, pressure, full court, press the entire game. And it was a controlled chaos, and it would just shake shit up. And it was so tough. Houston kind of does that, and I think it could be overwhelming. And I'm going to be honest with you. Duke is good. Duke's guard play does not like drive me home. I'm not here to tell you that Duke has the best guard play in the country. Like out of all of these teams, I'm taking everybody else's guard play personally. That's just me.
What have you thought of Khan?
As far as
just his ability against a team like Houston as a true freshman to create off the bounce, handle pressure, make decisions, because he's gotten a lot better as the season's going along. And I agree they haven't seen anything like Houston, but I think he's kind of the X factor because you know what Flagg's going to give you. Proctor, I feel like his focus, or at least his biggest strength, has been the way he's shooting the basketball. Yep. So I think that puts a lot of pressure on Khan to create and be, even if he's not a point guard, but a guy they need like 5 assists from him. You know what I'm saying? He got to create.
Yeah, I'm not here to say it's impossible. But again, I think Houston is not a team that you want to have him do that against. You know what I mean? Like Alabama, sure, or if Tennessee or somebody somehow beat, then you're probably good. But Houston and Houston got good guard play. You know what I mean? They're going to make you make a bunch of mistakes. Is it Uzan or Uzan?
I think it's Uzan.
Uzan, yeah, from Oklahoma. I liked his game since he was a freshman. Like he really took me by surprise. I had no idea who he was. I watched the Oklahoma game and I was like, "Who is this dude?" And I found out he was a freshman. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a fan. I love good guard play in college." And then he transferred to Houston. I was like, "Oh wow, like that's a good get." So they got good guard play. They can shoot the basketball. They make up for the lack of size. They apply pressure, intensity. They shoot threes. They cause turnovers. They don't turn the ball over like as much. I'm taking Houston. Now, I do want to say this is not to say that Duke can't win that game. Not saying at all, because Duke has size. They have some experience. They have some shot makers, and they have the best player in the game, which should be Cooper Flag. So, it's going to be a good game. And then ultimately, I'll take Florida. I'll take Florida winning it all. I'm taking Florida because I think they have a good mixture to fight back against Houston. They have guard play, they have shot making, they have size, they have some depth, and I think they'll be able to neutralize some of the things that Houston would want to be able to do. Florida's a national.
Is there any player that has really impressed you for the first two games that either whether it's their NBA? I know we had this conversation a while ago that you're not really overreacting to anyone's NBA stock from just a few games in the tournament, but just curious if anyone you've become a fan of or has really just jumped out to you. And even if it's someone that you were already super familiar with, like I'll just say like LJ Cryer on Houston, I've known how good he's been for years, but I just feel like he keeps leveling up a little bit, and his scoring is what keeps giving me the confidence that Houston can go all the way. I don't know if you have a guy like that.
Yeah, Cryer, you hit it on the head with Cryer because I wasn't always the fan of him with Baylor and whatnot, but you got to respect what he does. I've liked him. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. The entire fucking Arkansas team. I was very hard on DJ Wagner when he was coming into college. I wasn't as high on him as others. I'm just not a fan of like these small guards that don't have a position. It's like you play like a shooting guard, but you're in a point guard's body. You don't make really good decisions. You score. You're looking to score. And then when you don't score, you don't really have anything to offer us. He's like looked really good in this tournament. He gets to where he wants to get to. He isn't rattled. He's under control. I have loved the progression of him so far. I would not be mad if he came back for a third year. I'm going to just come out and say that because the progression and the leaps he's made seems like college is really helping him fully develop his game. And I think if he continues to develop some of these guard skills we're seeing, he's never going to lose his scoring instinct and his aggressiveness. I'm very familiar with his dad. I was growing up in a time where his dad was the guy. That's just in his blood. That scoring instinct isn't going anywhere. But these guard skills that I'm starting to see has gotten a lot better. Still not perfect, but it's come a long way. Even big V. Z. Is it Zivick?
Zvonimir, the V is right. He's like Zvonimir, I think is how you say it. But I just always call him Big Z. Avicic. There's the other the V. There's all the V's in his last name too.
Yeah. And then he has his brother with U of I. I'm still liking him. I kind of fell off of the train a little bit as far as NBA projection because when I first seen him, he like that first game with Kentucky. Remember he made all those threes and blocked all those shots last year. I was kind of like, damn, this dude legit. I want to see him play a little bit more, but I like him a lot. He got to get stronger, and I don't know if I'm all the way off the Trayvon Brazile train, Christian. I don't know, man. Like. He ain't doing the posters and all of the shit no more. I don't think he's shooting the ball as good as he once was a year or two ago from three, which I thought was very intriguing when he was knocking down shots. But to see him buy in is making me like his athleticism, his size, his mobility, agility. I think you can't pass up on in the NBA. And if he can buy into a role, it's really, really good. Now to give you one more, Cohen Carr. He's undersized, but he plays like he's 6'9", man. I don't know how you can't. You have to buy into that if you're an NBA scout right now. You have to buy into that. And he's 6'5", power forward. He plays much bigger. He plays like he reminds me of like a 2000s big. Like he got the little cutoff undershirt with the little high arm band. Yeah, man. Those are some of the guys that I've grown to like a lot more as NBA prospects. And Proctor, Tyrese Proctor. I mean, if he's going to shoot like that, then shit, yeah. There you go.
On Brazile, I have such a distinct memory of when I became such a big fan of him it was in the Maui tournament when he was on that team with Jordan Walsh and Nick Smith Jr. and Ricky Council. And Arkansas played a great game against Creighton because Creighton had Ryan Nemhard, Shireman, Kalkbrenner, Kaluma. That team was loaded.
Yep.
And I remember Brazil was just so bouncy. Like he's still athletic, but I'm hoping, and it seems like he's getting it back like as time has gone because it's been a while since the injury. But like,
yeah.
The athleticism is such a core part of his game. And you're right, he was a knockdown 3-point shooter, and I'm like, man, a 6'4", a 6'10", I don't know why I said 6'4", a 6'10" explosive athlete, maybe because I was about to say who can shoot potentially a 40% from three, like in a lower volume, like protect the rim, switch. Like I was so high on him, and I love seeing him. I think you described it well. Like it seems like he's perfectly bought into his role. And that's where you got to give Calipari so much credit, is that his goal every year since when he started at Kentucky is bring in as much talent as possible and then figure it out by March.
Yep.
And this has been one of the funkiest time because he had a new school and he had injuries. But you add Fland and Thiero back to the way everybody else is going to do.
Yeah.
Apparently he's supposed to play. We don't know if he'll come off the bench like Boogie, but the Arkansas talent they're a top 5 most talented team left in this tournament, in my opinion. And I think guys like Brazil playing his role, guys like Wagner playing his role, and Adu, who has this little offensive wrinkle that he's given you and then just playing great defense. Like I'm really excited about them. And I love Texas Tech, but I'm a little scared about Texas. I think Arkansas is a better team right now.
I'm rooting for Arkansas, man. That's like the team I'm rooting for outside of my Alabama guys.
And one final note, Pierre, I want to hear your opinion on this. We were talking about this on numbers, but we are only representing 4 conferences right now. And every March is crazy. Do you think people are overreacting, saying it's the death of these mid-majors making a run? Or, I mean, we got 7 SEC teams here. A football conference is what we're told the SEC is. We got 7 SEC teams, not a single Big East school, which we could have if UConn and Creighton didn't get bad draws and everything, and St. John's didn't lose that game. But what do you think about the fact that we're looking at this tournament of a lot of really good teams and matchups that I'm excited for, but only from 4 leagues?
Oh, man. On 1 minute, I'm like, let's let things play out and see how it looks from a 3-year perspective, because it's just 1 year and funky stuff happens in college basketball where you just have a year. And I've been anticipating a year like this for the last 10 years. I've always made my bracket and it was like, what if this is the bracket where all of the top teams are just going to do what they got to do? Like, I've always made my bracket and kind of like thought about that. Like, am I overthinking this? Am I trying to predict upsets too much? It's going to be. I used to think when I was younger that there was going to be a year where there was not one upset. And I used to be so nervous, like, this is my bracket, and watch this be the year. I'm trying to predict all these upsets, and none of them are going to happen. Obviously, that has never happened. It can be concerning, but listen, it can be concerning, but what are we going to do? These are the rules that they make. They would have to come in and change the rules. They would have to come in and change the rules, to be honest with you. I don't know. I really don't know, because when you think about it, a mid-major player, their goal now. So hypothetically speaking, Christian is a coach. He's coaching at Valparaiso.
My guys play hard.
I play hard. He gives me a scholarship. I go to Valpo. In 2025, my dream now is to handle my business at Valpo, get interest from somebody, and be able to go to an Arkansas in a year or 2. Back then, you didn't think like that. Like, everybody came in, committed to their school. I'll be here. I want to potentially get to the NBA or get some type of NBA buzz in these next 4 years. But you weren't thinking about, man, if I do this here, I'm going to go there. I mean, you could. I'm not saying it was impossible, but you would have to sit out the year. I think if you put in that you have to sit out a year again, and we put a lot of this transferring to a halt, a lot more kids will really think about the decision that they're making. They will be fully committed into the coaching staff and the program, and you would maybe have a little bit more balance. But if we just allow, the NIL is the NIL. Let the players get paid. But to be able to play for 4 teams in 4 years, to me, is just too much. It is way too much. The portal right now is like free agency. I've been texting you, Christian, like it's the NBA free agency. Hey, man, look, he went in the portal. Oh, Donovan Denton is in the portal. Jaleel Bathley is in the portal. the kid from Valpo, I just discovered this kid. He's 7'2", played over here, and he shoots 45% for three. He's going. It's just too much. And then the coaches are hopping around like it's the NBA too. Coaches are going everywhere, all over. There's not one thing in college basketball that's kind of consistent right now besides the NIL money from the powerhouse schools, which is an obvious thing. And that's why me and you had the discussion yesterday on Through the Numbers on the Board about Sean Miller. You know, you're a fan when you would prefer to see Sean Miller stay at a Xavier type school. And I was like, hey, I get you. But at the end of the day, it's a personal preference. And it seems like his preference is going to be to go to places and schools that's going to be able to back him with a big financial support to be able to get the players he wants to get. He's recruiting a DeAndre Ayton level players. Those players aren't going to Xavier, but they will go to Arizona. They will go to Texas. It will be a lot easier to recruit at these big powerhouses who are also going to have big financial NIL money available. Texas as a football program, the school going to be funded just off football. Just off football, he know he going to be able to get some guys in there. So it's mixy. I don't have the answers. It can be disheartening. But again, we have to let this play out and see, because next year could come around and we could have 3 mid-major schools in the mix, and then it's like, oh, we all good. But again, if this was year 5, if we're doing this 5 years from now, Christian, and we're like, man, another year with the SEC is taking over, then it's like, okay, this is a fucking problem. This is a fucking problem. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. But I do get the concern. I do think it's good conversation. It's good dialogue. And I think college basketball and college athletics, they need to be watching and being prepared to help fix the game, because this is something that people like me and you care deeply about. This I would not be in this seat or be on that seat over there on the Numbers on the Board set without college basketball. I am not who I am. I'm not a professional basketball media analyst or whatever you want to call me without my love for college basketball. So fix the game, fix it if it needs fixing. Allow the players to get paid, but again, nobody should be able to play for 4 teams in 4 years. That's absurd to me. Now we are headed into another fan favorite edition of Q's with P. My boy Christian got some questions that y'all was throwing at me on Twitter. We picked some of the best ones. We're gonna dive into it and hopefully give y'all some insight or some opinions and takes or agreements. Some of y'all, hey, I will say this. I was telling Christian, he ain't hip yet. A lot of y'all be fans of teams and y'all submit questions that are like alley-oop to kind of praise y'all team. I get it. I respect it. But I be trying to really get into some shit. I'm not looking for those questions like it's a James Harden and Kawhi profile pictures and how far can the Clippers go? Like, wanting me to hype up your team. Trust me, I got plenty of time to hype y'all up on Twitter, but on here with Q's or P, we trying to get into some shit. What up? What we got though, Christian? My guy.
First one from Taylor Vanderbilt at the Team Vandy. Let's mix the two. If the NBA had a March Madness style tournament, single elimination, what would be the lowest seeded team that could have a chance to win it?
So I'm looking at the standings and whatnot. I got a couple of teams, right? Phoenix would be a team that me and you in college basketball would be like, hey, but they got these 2-star freshmen. It would be like if Rutgers made it, where like they've struggled, but you can't quite rule out Harper and Bailey at any moment. They can go off and do something for you. So you would have to look at Phoenix. Minnesota. I think Minnesota with Ant and then what they have around him defensively would be really intriguing and really dope. And then Orlando. Orlando is super grimy. They would slow down the game. They would be one of those teams that we talk about, like a Michigan State, where it's like, hey, man, they don't shoot a lot of threes. They don't make three. But then they would say, hey, that's fine. We're going to slow the game down. We're going to be grimy and gritty defensively. And then we're going to let Franz and Paolo kind of go possession for possession and try to win us the game. And so those are like the teams that I would lean on, teams that fit the kind of pattern that you see. I think Detroit, I don't know if you want to call them a lower seed at 6 because they're avoiding a play in there, but I think Detroit will be good. And I don't know how low they want to go, but boy, Philly, if Philly got Embiid, George, and Maxey to be healthy, they would be a scary matchup too. But yeah, I really like the Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Suns, and then I would say Orlando. And I think with Trae Young, you know, like we've seen him in college basketball, you have to give the Hawks a chance as well.
I like those answers. Do you think that'd be like? I mean, I know we've got a tastelessing elimination with NBA Cup, but do you think we're Silver or whoever's going to try to get to either build out the cup or change the structure of it so we get a more March Madness style thing, or do you think that's never going to happen?
I don't want to say never. I don't want to say it never. What I will say is I would enjoy it. That's what I will say. I would enjoy it. It would be extremely dope, and I don't think it would be a bad idea to explore that. And maybe that should be what the NBA Cup is. Like, just have a gauntlet. It's be very simple. Once you lose, you're done. You know, once you lose, you're done.
So I thought this was a good one from Don B. Kenny recently made a video about this, but I'm curious what your opinion is. Pertaining to the Bulls basically self-sabotaging themselves by staying mediocre and keep winning games, what do you think of the fan who just wants to cheer for their team to win no matter what? I've changed my opinion of it because as a Chicago sports fan, we haven't been shown that management will ever really make the correct decision, and maybe the better option is to be ignorant to the quote-unquote greater good and just be happy with winning games and being an exciting team.
I like this too. I do want to say something. Like, I think it's very important to, and I'm guilty of this too. We're all guilty in the basketball community and in society of the basketball world. Well, we kind of try to tell people what type of fan to be. I think it's completely fine to just be a fan and just root for your team. I think it's also completely fine to be like a NBA GM nerd that's like, hey, if we lose these games, we can get the second highest odds to get the third overall pick. I think you just have to be comfortable with your fandom, and I think we also again have to allow people to be the type of fan they want to be. I was a Knick fan when we were garbage, and I would see other Knick fans being like, man, we should try to get this guy, we should try to get that guy. And I used to be the fan, used to be like, why would we do that if we're trying to rebuild? Like, let's not try to shortcut the process. But at the end of the day, yeah, there are fans that should be involved and invested in the current season. Because at the end of the day, if you're not, then it was a complete waste of a season, right? Where you just like put your fandom on pause. And again, yeah, I just think everybody should be allowed to be whatever type of fan they want to be. And I think there is value in just being a fan who wakes up, goes about their day and job, and then at night your team comes on and you turn the TV on and you're just rooting for your team. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And sometimes I'm jealous of those type of people. Like, I like to be able to see how casual fans consume the game, because at the point that I'm at, I don't think I can casually consume the product anymore. And I get a little jealous of the people that can. I know so much. I even was telling that to somebody with their bracket. I forgot where I was. I was at the car dealership, and they found out what I did for a living, and it was like, man, we wish you came a couple days ago so we could have looked at your bracket. And I was like, no, I wish I was y'all. I wish I didn't know the shit that I knew so I could just pick teams and just go, because I feel like I know so much that I get indecisive and I have a shitty bracket. Whereas some people just watch and they just say, okay, I know Duke is good. You know, I've seen them on ESPN, but then they don't know the other 49 teams remaining, or the other 55 teams. They only know like 10 teams, and they could just pick off of emotion or feeling, and they end up being right because it's just you're just going. But when you know how much a team shoots from three, you know what they did in the SEC, you know that they've been inconsistent, you know that this guy, you start to overthink, you get indecisive, you go back off a pick, you go on a pick. It was so many times I had this team and then I went to that team and then I played, and then my bracket is shit. So I sometimes am jealous of the people who are just casually viewing and experiencing the product of basketball, because sometimes I can't be casual. I watch and I get so deep into it that it makes everything a big deal. So be the fan that you want to be. Whatever route you want to take in supporting your team, you're allowed to have that. That's what you get charged as a fan, to be able to be however you want to be. I'm a fan that isn't biased. I'm allowed to be that way. Some fans think that you can only be biased. So I think we let everybody be the type of fan that they want to be. We accept that, and we agree to disagree if it ever cross paths. But yeah, be the fan that you want to be, and don't let somebody like me or anybody else with a platform dictate how you want to be a fan. If you just want to turn your TV on a random Wednesday and say, go Bulls, no matter how bad y'all are, how much y'all may need a pick, or how much, hey, go beat the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just whatever.
I think that's well said. I just want to say, I told you guys this yesterday, as a New York Giants fan,
Mm-hmm.
My coping mechanism of how bad they've been has kind of been to like tune out a bit. Like last year, I didn't watch the least I ever watched as a Giants fan. I was rooting for the Eagles, who I'm supposed to hate,
Right.
because I wanted Saquon to win to make the front office look
That's
stupid. So
my
then
type
maybe
of
they would.
fan right there. That's my type of fan. I'm supposed to hate, but no, y'all fucked up. So I'm rooting for our guy who y'all should have kept so he could win here. That's the type of fan I would be, Christian. But then you go on Twitter and say that, and Twitter will be like, man, you ain't a real Giants fan.
And I'm like, clearly I am, or I wouldn't be so emotionally out of like I'm mad. Like now I got to root for some damn Russell Wilson next year. Like, are you kidding me? Like, when will I be free?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Anyways, I am a Giants fan, but I don't need I don't need a Giants fan telling me how to be a Giants fan. This is how I'm being a Giants fan. It is protest. It is silent protest and rooting for Saquon.
I think that's fair. And I'm not afraid to admit that I might have been a fan years ago that would have been like, you're wrong. But there is no right or wrong. We all are owed that, because especially when you're a fan like a Giants fan. I'm a White Sox fan. I used to be a Cowboys fan. I'm a Bears fan. I like the Knicks. The Knicks haven't won shit in my lifetime. We all have to find ways to cope. Like we all just trying to find ways to enjoy and get something out of it. And so let me cope the way I want to. If that's just supporting them, if that's saying lose, if that's thinking about a 5-year plan, however it's allowing me to be a fan, the best fan that I could be, just let me be that. And everybody should be owed that. And yeah, just be the fan you want to be, man.
No, for sure. Next question from Ivan Awume. If you were a coach at any level, what would you want your team identity to be? Obviously, personnel dictates a lot of what you can do, but I'm curious to see what styles of play you think impacts winning the most.
Yeah. I don't want to be cliche at all, but I would really want a team that was tough. And I know tough is such a bland word, but what I mean by tough is like, I think that basketball today, especially with analytics, you can create a by chance product. And what I mean by that is like, there's a lot of teams, even in college basketball, that we saw, they didn't necessarily make a lot of threes, but they shot a lot because it's like by chance. If we get up a lot, we'll make some eventually. They're going to fall. You know what I mean? I want a team that can rely on things that translate on a night by night basis that revolve in effort. So that would be like, I want a team that really boxes out and controls the glass. That's an effort. That's not a by chance thing. If you box out your man and you take pride in controlling the glass, I know as a coach, no matter who we play, who we face, how bad we're shooting, if we have an injury, if we have a team that's buying into boxing out and taking pride in rebounding the basketball, offensively and defensively, I know I can count on that every single day. So I would have certain principles that I would lay out with my coaching staff that regardless of what type of talent, size, or player walks through the door for our program or our team, we would have certain foundational things that we can count on a game-by-game basis. And if a player couldn't buy into those principles, they wouldn't be a fit for us. And a lot of that would fall on the defensive side of the basketball, right? Like to play for me, you would have to be a high IQ player who was tough and played tough and didn't take possessions off. That would be my style of coaching. Now, I know it probably is conflicting to some people because you see I love Nate Oates. I love Mike D'Antoni. These are high-powered offensive coaches who want to see threes and different things like that. And I'm intrigued with that. I think you have to play like that at a certain level. I am not going to be an Alabama coach tomorrow. I'm not going to coach Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire pick and rolls. So what I think of myself is maybe a youth basketball team, a high school basketball team. Amari Stoudemire is not walking through the door for my program at Hinsdale South if I coach my former school. So with that, you have to kind of, what do you call that, Christian, when you dial back your expectation? There has to be a word for that, where it's like, I can't think of the word, but when you're coaching high school or youth basketball, you can have a 5-star prospect walk through the door and be a part of your team, but to expect that and to hope that, you kind of setting yourself up for failure. So to save grace, you kind of dial back. It's like going to a car dealership or going house shopping. You know what I mean? You always prepare for the worst. You get what I'm saying? Like, you can't walk into somewhere thinking you're going to get a deal, because you're not. So prepare to not get a deal, and then if you do get a deal, you good. So I would naturally prepare to not have a 5-star talent, to not have 7-foot guys across the front line. And so then you want to teach guys things that are translatable and teachable. And if your foundations are teachable, I just think the upside to your team and your program goes up. You can't teach tween behind I mean, you can teach that, but that's some shit you would have to teach a family member that you can work with every single day for years and years. When you take on a program like high school or something like that, you don't have as much time cultivating and developing. You kind of have to coach and put game plan in. And so the things that I'm talking about, I think, can be teachable within the time that you would have with your players, which is boxing out, rebounding, ball trajectory, peel switching, right, trapping, relocating, how to manipulate offensive players to believe that something is more open and available than what it is. I think these are all things that can be teachable and translatable quickly, rather than saying, hey, we're going to work on your body to get you to get a 40-inch vertical so you can be dunking on people. Like, that takes years and years and years, you know what I mean, to cultivate, a bunch of 40% three-point shooter. That just takes a lot of time. So you can teach defense, you can coach defense, you can coach rebounding and boxing out, you can coach how to get back, and limit transition opportunities, how to run people off the line, how to lead people into your help, right? Blanketed shell defenses and different things like that. That would be my principle. Having a unit that plays hard, that plays smart, and that plays together. And I think that gives you a chance against anybody on any given day, no matter the talent discrepancy. And that would be how I would run my team. And I think my offense would be predicated to my defense. And I think I would just have to find the most simplified offense to put in. I wouldn't be a coach that would try to run too much offense. I think it would be a feel and a flow. And we would kind of just have a read and react type motion style offense where we have certain things that just run. You pass, cut, replace, come up, slip, back. You have a flare option where you can curl, pop to the three, slip that curl. Just things like that versus like we're running fists and then we're running trying. Like, I wouldn't be that. I would need my guys to lock in so much defensively that we wouldn't have time to have 100 play offensive playbook, because the defense would get so much from us that I would reward my players by saying, hey, we're going to run a motion style offense where y'all are going to be able to read and react, and then we just take care of the basketball, and we'll pass that ball 1,000 times if we need to. That's preparing to not have high level talent. If you get a high level guard, he just falls into your lap or comes to your program, then you can have a same type of offense, but then you can start to just say we're going to have a pick and roll offense, or we're going to have a motion offense. But if we feel trouble, we get it to our best player. We pick and roll. He'll either create for himself or somebody else. And now we can really cook. But a lot of my attention will go to defense, and the offense will be always simple flat offense. Always.
Love it. Next question comes from GT17. I was supposed to ask you this a while ago, and I botched. But Maddie reminded me that the GT17 correctly guessed that your dad was going to be joining the show when we did that. And GT17 wants to know, if given the opportunity, would you give up podcasting media to work as a scout, team GM, or an agent? And if you would, which one and why?
Yes, the only thing I would give up podcasting for is to be a GM. That's just a dream job. I wouldn't give up being the podcast for a scouting job, and I wouldn't give up the podcast for a agent job. Number one, I feel like those are two jobs that I would be able to do while doing a podcast. Number two, I feel like those jobs are so replaceable. And not to say that GM isn't, but GMing is a lot more rewarding than those jobs. Guys drop and switch agents like it's nothing. Like, some agencies don't even do shit wrong. You can just roll with a guy and he can be like a not household name. He pops up and explodes, and now he's like, oh, it's time for me to get Rich Paul. And you could have not done anything wrong, but it's like, now that I'm on a high level, I need to be represented by Rich Paul. And I just don't want a job that's just so cut and dry like that. Same thing with scouting. Like, scouting is just not, I'm not the type of person cut out for NBA scouting. Like, I'm a family-oriented guy. Scott, I'm not going over here and here to watch shit and somebody ain't doing some shit I want to see. Fuck that. No. You know what I'm saying? I would scout for a college program if I was on a coaching staff and my job was a recruiter to go out and see guys in person to report back to Nate Oates or some shit like that. I would do because I think it's less movement than like the NBA. And I could be wrong. Maybe a scout out there at the college level that's like, boy, you got it fucked up. It's a lot more travel. But the GMing is just like, it's a GM job. I get to control shit. I get to like really do all of the things that I think other GMs are stupid for. I get to now have it, and I think I could put a team together at the NBA level a lot better than I can do those other jobs personally. It's the NBA. It's the NBA. So Christian, I can sit in this chair, call you, and say, let me get Luka Doncic, and I'll give you Anthony Davis. I'll also give you Max Christie. And you can't have both of my picks, but I'll give you one. And you would tell me, yeah. Oh yeah.
Wait, do I get Dalton Connect?
No.
All right.
So hell yeah, let me be a G. If it's that easy, then yeah, let me be a GM. Shit. But no, I think I could put together a team for sure.
Love it.
And also, they pay GMs a decent amount of money, so I'm not leaving the podcast to get a rinky-dink ass job. You know what I'm saying? Like GMs get paid some millions, so that way, even if I didn't do as good as I think and I got fired, I can come back to the podcast richer
with stories too.
And
do you have a favorite GM, by the way?
Our favorite GM.
I love Sam Presti because I was a Thunder fan as a kid.
That's a good question, but I feel like he's a fucking cheat code. But you were a Thunder fan. You did say that. That's a good question. I really like I like Raphael Stone from the Rockets. And I obviously like Sam Presti. I will say that. And I like Kleiman from the Grizzlies. I like what the Grizzlies do. I like what the Grizzlies do a lot. Yeah.
So, speaking of, did you see
Desmond Bane push your boy?
Desmond Bane push Santi?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know. I was searching to see like a press game interview to see if they spoke on it, but I wasn't able to find anything.
They've been photoshopping Desmond Bane's face on
the guy that we mimicking. Yeah, I seen that. I like Brad Stevens as a GM too. Brad Stevens.
Oh, yeah. And Baylor Shireman, another find from the Celtics. He's going to be he could get playoff minutes. Am I crazy to think that?
Yeah, probably crazy to think that, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't expect it. That's all I'm saying. I like Baylor.
I'm such a fan. All right, last one. This is from BVHBJG, and his profile picture is Cam Thomas, and he says, "Hey P, my younger brother, he's quite good at basketball, and he's currently 14. I was just wondering what your advice would be for supporting him, considering your younger brother is also very good at basketball."
Showing up. I think showing up is some of the best support you can give somebody. Showing up. My younger brother, I don't want to say I taught him. I mean, I'm sure I taught him some things, but that wasn't really my focus. It was just being there to support him and to encourage him. I think that goes a long way than we all know. I feel like we always think that we have to be like this Superman person for people. And sometimes it's just as simple as being there to be able to say, man, that was a good game. Or if they had a bad game, it's like, that's okay. You know what I mean? Sometimes people need to hear that, even if it feels cliche or just feels like the standard generic answer. But yeah, I was just there for him and in any way he needed to be. If I felt there was something to say, I would say it. But I always knew my dad was going to take that role of having something to critique. So then I tried to just come in there and just be a supportive big brother when he needed an escape from basketball, because basketball can be so consuming. I would talk about music or what's going on in his personal life, or take him shopping, or, let him be a kid again. And then, yeah, so it just depends on you and your brother's relationship and y'all family dynamics. Since I already had a basketball dad, I didn't need to do too much basketball stuff with my brother. But you may be in a situation where maybe y'all dad isn't into basketball. And so you may need to practice with him and train with him. But anything you see him needing, you offer. And I think that would just be enough. And to just remind him of the reality. Like, you play basketball to have fun. Basketball in today's game has become such this pressure building thing where every young kid is thinking about fucking the NBA. And it's like, relax. Dream, but relax. Do not beat yourself up about the fucking NBA, because I don't know how we express this, Christian, how much more we can express this. Everybody's not making it. So to be stressed out about the NBA where you probably wasn't going to make it any fucking way. You know what I mean? It's not to kill any dreams, but like I just hate when kids walk around and they can only think about the NBA. There's so much more you can get out of basketball than just thinking it's NBA or bust. I love my job, and I'm not in the NBA at all. So that's the way you support them, in my opinion.
I love that. We also, on that point, meeting Jalen Wells and hearing out his mouth say, like, I thought I was going to play 4 years at Sonoma State and go overseas. Like, and Ty Jerome talked about when he realized, like, oh, he could actually do it. I love that sentiment of, like, not trying to knock anyone for your dream be the NBA. Of course, that's a dream, but, like, basketball can do so much for you. If you really love the game, basketball can do so much for you, whether it's becoming a coach, playing overseas, doing what you do. Like, there's so much if you really love the game, that doesn't have to be the only way to measure success. There's so many ways it can lead you to success.
That's the best thing about the internet too, where like you have like guys like us who do this podcast and this content creation realm. We all play basketball. You have agents, you have coaches, you have trainers, you have scouts, like you have like video guys. Like when you think about an NBA team, or you think about any team, you watching college basketball, you look about a team, look at how many people have to be involved for a team to roll like a well-oiled machine. And I'm not even talking about the good teams. If we can go to the Big East and look at who was the worst team in the Big East, and there's still probably 50 people directly tied to that team and how they support it. It's the same thing with the NBA. You got trainers, you got videographers, you got content strategists, you got media personnel, you got beat writers, you got front office people. And we use front office loosely. I don't know what's in a front office. I just know they have one, right? Like that's a whole realm of like, that may be 13 positions that I'm just, not aware of. We know the GM and assistant GM, but there's a CFO and, there's all type of trainers. You got physical therapists, you got sleep doctors, you got shot doctors. When I say shot doctors, I'm not talking about like injections. I'm talking about talking about coaching staff with the shooter. There's so many people involved in every basketball team that to think the only way you can have a successful basketball story is by being an NBA player. I think you're living in this dark cloud that is just going to give you too much stress and pressure. And then again, there is a whole entire world of basketball overseas that is still professional. When you look at somebody like the Mike Jameses of the world, or the Rondae Hollis Jefferson, or there's Shane Larkins. There's so many people. Jabari Parker is over there now, who can just play professional all over the world. So, yeah, man, it's so much more to get from the game than to walk around. This is what I would say. This is how I end this. Take from the game and use the game. Don't let the game take from you and use you. You don't put in decades of work, hours, interests, watching, consuming, and then just like sit in a hole like, man, I couldn't make it to the NBA, so I'm done with this shit. That's stupid. That's stupid.
I feel like we always have one final random rabbit hole we go down of basketball, and talking about overseas, you reminded me that. So yesterday, Richard Pitino goes from New Mexico to Xavier to take Sean Miller's spot.
Yep.
And this guy I follow on Twitter, shout out Tony Liebert, who covers Minnesota, was tweeting about, and I forgot about Pitino's time at Minnesota. He had some really good players there. Amir Coffey, Daniel Oturo.
I was so high on Daniel Oturo when he went to the Clippers.
He was good. And you know who else reminded me was on that team?
Who else was on that team?
Jelly Fam Dimes Isaiah Washington. So I Googled him. And I was like,
didn't he go to Iona after that?
Yeah, he did. And then he went to like Long Beach State. And then I Googled him. I'm like, is he still hooping? So guess what? He plays for SLUC Nancy Basket in France. And I clicked on his team. And guess who's on his team? Chris Clemens. Remember Chris Clemens? The little guard.
He fucked up his Achilles with the Rockets. Yes. He's one of the all-time leading scorers in NCAA.
Yeah, I think he led the country in scoring for Campbell. He had 22 and 7 off the bench because of course he did. And Hunter Couture was on the other team, the dude who dropped 30 on Duke in the ACC title for Virginia Tech, the white guy number 0.
Wow. What league is
So
this?
random. LNB Pro A.
So that's what I'm saying. These are high. These. Yeah, man. This shit goes way deeper than we even know. These are like guys who are household names. It's just still hooping. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now before we leave, do one more thing for me. Google Daniel Arturo. He was a
What's he up to?
monster. We all loved him. I put the guys onto him and on the podcast. Oh man, a dog. He was shooting threes and shit, dunking. Oh man.
Ready for, okay, this is awesome. This is awesome. You're not going to believe this. So Daniel Arturo plays for Anadolu FS in the basketball Super Lugi in Germany, and you're not going to believe the names in the game that he played in his last game on Sunday. On Daniel Arturo's team is Shane Larkin, speak of the devil.
Of course.
Jordan Mora.
Okay, of course.
From Louisville, was on the Bucks. Derek Willis, who had this bad mohawk. He was on the Kentucky team.
Number 35.
Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox. Yep. And then on the team they played against, Bonzi Colson and Wade Baldwin.
Oh, shout out to Wade Baldwin. Wade Baldwin got drafted by the Grizzlies?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So that has to be a high league because Shane Larkin is over there. Shane Larkin be winning MVP in those leagues.
Right. No, Daniel Arturo doing his thing. He getting his double-doubles.
Oh, he got a double-double?
He had 14 and 9. It's like, but I'll give him. He was close.
That would be nice. That's an off-season episode we got to write down where we just like think of guys that we liked in college or whatever, and like, what are they up to today?
Pierre, we could have a 5-hour marathon episode where all we did was go through box scores of games in Italy and Germany.
You know what you would say? There isn't anything that's what do you call it? Oh man, what would you say? You would say it ain't a it's nothing topical. It's not topic. We don't have anything topical. What would we title it? That's the type of shit Christian would tell me. And I would be like, hey, that's your job to figure out what to call it and make it topical. I don't know. I just here to entertain. And we appreciate y'all as always. This is another edition and episode of Tee It Up. We hope y'all enjoyed it. As always, make sure you subscribe, give us some love with that like button, get in the comments and tell us what you love, what you hated, and what you was so about. But that was a trick question because you shouldn't be commenting anything you hated because there's nothing that you should be hating here at Tee It Up. Make sure you tune into March Madness and let me know what you disagree with immediately. Because what a lot of y'all are doing is waiting till the results of games happen and then be like, how could you have ever picked them? No, if you want to talk shit, let's talk shit during. Don't wait till the game is done to make everybody else feel foolish about their picks when you didn't know yourself and you had to wait till the game was over. But I love y'all. I see y'all. Peace.